Direwolves alive in a secret location. Woolly mice designed to help bring back the mammoth. Has science finally cracked de-extinction?
And the real question, could dinosaurs be next? Stay tuned as we unpack the real science behind this real science fiction.
Direwolves and woolly mammoths, two legends of the Ice Age. Large animals adapted to cold Pleistocene climates, and both played important roles in their ecosystems. One, a towering herbivore supporting wide open grasslands, and the other, an apex predator keeping populations in check.
And they both vanished about 10,000 years ago. Why? Well, likely climate shifts, changing habitats, and you guessed it, humans. We're all to blame.
But extinction, it turns out, might not be forever. Maybe. Today, scientists are studying their fossils in places like the La Brea tar pits. But in some labs, they're aiming for something way more ambitious, bringing them back.
And a major milestone in this achievement, we just unlocked. Maybe. So many babies.
Yeah, you've probably been hearing the word de-extinction a lot recently. It's the idea that we can use biotechnology to bring back species that have gone extinct.
And according to some headlines, we've done it. The direwolf is back. The giant ice age megafauna, Game of Thrones sidekick, reborn in our lifetime. And I'm getting one.
You're definitely not getting one. You have a real dog you didn't even want to walk this morning. So no direwolf for you. And while the de-extinction of the direwolf is real science that we need to talk about, it's bringing some wild questions and serious debate. Like, if direwolves can make a comeback, what about dinosaurs?
Can I get like a Pentaceratops or an Archaeornithomimus? How about a Natsaracoaculus or like something? The tiny viewers, the tiny pterosaur that had feathers and a weird mouth. Namarapapapapapexapex or something like that.
Anyway, hold your amber there, Kai. We should really break down what's actually happening and whether we could even bring back a dinosaur, because while the science is fascinating, the headlines are a little, well, you know what? We're just gonna tell you the story and then let all of you decide and tell us what you think in the comments below, because it is a lot to think about, frankly.
How about, can I get like an irritator or a baryonyx or a suco? Can I get a suchomimus?
Do you know what we don't need in this house? Is more irritators.
I hate it.
Thank you.
Can I get like a...
Okay, we're done now.
At minimum, can I get a Cryolophosaurus?
Here's the scoop. A company called Colossal Biosciences announced the successful arrival of 2 direwolf pups on October 1st, 2024, and then a third born in January.
All are thriving in a secure but unnamed location on the company's 2,000-acre private reserve somewhere in the northern United States. They claim this is the first successful case of de-extinction.
But, plot twist, it's not cloning, and whether what they're doing even qualifies as de-extinction is an open question. Not everyone agrees that these are direwolves brought back to life, but everyone agrees they are super cute.
Oh.
So cute. Cute aggression. Can't help it.
Kawaii.
Kawaii.
Wait, so how did Colossal make these cuddly fur balls?
Step 1 to bringing back ancient creatures is ancient DNA. You need it, and it's really hard to find.
While direwolf bones are plentiful in the fossil record, especially in places like the La Brea tar pits, direwolf DNA has been elusive.
None of the fossils in the tar pits have yielded DNA, so Colossal eventually sequenced fragments from 2 different museum specimens. A 13,000-year-old tooth from Ohio, and then a 72,000-year-old skull from Idaho for their DNA.
The head bone's connected to the heel bone.
Oh, there's our direwolf. You better walk her.
Their research into this dire DNA shows direwolves are about 99.5% genetically similar to modern gray wolves.
It's actually a really big deal to learn, because until recently, scientists weren't even sure that they were close relatives at all.
So, they have the DNA, they sequence the entire genome of direwolves?
Well, we'll come back to that, because let's just say for now, they sequenced enough to start the next step in making a direwolf. Ancient DNA is often incomplete and damaged, but they had enough pieces to identify key genes, especially the ones that control outward traits they think distinguish the direwolf: fur color, body size, skull shape, those sorts of things.
Features that, in Colossal's view, make the direwolf distinct.
Then, using gene editing tools like CRISPR, they altered 20 specific sites on 14 genes inside gray wolf cells, inserting 15 direwolf gene variants.
The goal wasn't a perfect copy, but a functional version, something that looked and hopefully behaved like a direwolf.
Colossal focused on genes that would alter the creature's phenotype or the observable characteristics of an organism. In this case, largely its appearance.
But gene editing can only bring you so close to the original direwolf.
With the current state of science, we can only make so many genetic edits at one time. So you can't use this process to create a creature that's genetically identical to an ancient direwolf, even if you had all of the DNA. But creating a clone wasn't Colossal's goal in the first place. In fact, they pretty openly claimed that current ideas of de-extinction that focus on exacting copies of extinct animals, they say those are flawed. Their definition focuses on creating organisms that resemble and are genetically similar to extinct species, but aren't necessarily exact replicas.
So it's more like making a modern remix than reviving the old band?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even if you had a perfect genetic match, you still wouldn't be bringing back the same creature that went extinct thousands of years ago. Things like behavior and microbiome and social learning, all of those are shaped by the environment.
The environment
is giving you
a hard time.
There's a thing. The environment is happening, people. It's happening. It's not just DNA, and it's shaping me right now. And this is why you can't just stitch together creatures in a lab. Got it?
They're gonna be like this.
Also, stop making my dog bark, whoever's out there.
So the real question is, at what point does a modified gray wolf become a direwolf? Does swapping a few genes really resurrect an ancient species, or just create something new?
And even if we could recreate a creature using 100% direwolf genome, full clone, would it really be a direwolf? I mean, these are creatures that grow up in specific ecosystems, environments that no longer exist. Are species and the role they play on our planet the sum total of their genes?
Big questions aside, the scientific achievements here are huge. Because after Colossal identifies and edits those ancient genes, they still need to replicate those in an organism that survives. Information overload.
So much information!
And the science behind this achievement is amazing. So here's how those pups were actually born. First, scientists made those genetic edits to a gray wolf blood cell, and then they took that cell's nucleus and inserted it into a dog egg cell that had its original DNA removed. And then the resulting embryo was implanted into a surrogate domestic dog. It took about 8 surrogate mothers, implanted with an average of 45 embryos each, to successfully bring those 3 pups to life.
But this remixed direwolf is only the beginning. Colossal isn't stopping here. Their plans include re-engineering versions of the dodo, the Tasmanian tiger, and the woolly mammoth.
Everything always involves shaking on this channel. Oy vey. Okay. Well, in fact, though, just weeks before the direwolf news hit, Colossal announced the arrival of woolly mice. Mice that are genetically engineered to carry mammoth-like traits, which is amazing. This is a major step forward towards their goal of birthing the first mammoth or mammoth-ish elephant by 2028.
Okay. So if direwolves and mammoths are on the way, are dinosaurs next? Come on, please. Can you get a Deinonychus?
I've already said no to this, right? It's so hard to root against scientific progress. And yet, here I find myself conflicted. Moving on. Let's run through the direwolf de-extinction checklist to see where we stand with the likelihood of Kai getting a dinosaur. Now,
Step 1 in this process is identifying DNA, which we still don't have any of.
That's our first problem. The DNA breaks down over time, and the process starts pretty much as soon as an animal dies. So while scientists are pushing the boundary of what's recoverable, still the oldest DNA ever recovered is already only about 2 million years old. And dinosaurs, well, they disappeared 66 million years ago.
So with current methods, it's highly improbable we'll find any dino DNA anytime soon. No DNA, no de-extinction.
No, but for the sake of argument, let's just say I found some. Maybe I have the entire genome of Kai's favorite dinosaur just laying around my house. Sure. Would scientists even be able to use that code as a recipe to recreate these creatures? No one's even sure about that. But let's again, for the sake of argument, just say I have the full genome and I know exactly how to read it and I know exactly how it works.
Step 2 in this process requires a living relative.
You need a modern species close enough to carry dino DNA through gene editing to gestation.
Birds are descendants of dinosaurs, but the gap is huge compared to the difference between dire and gray wolves.
Yeah, editing a chicken into a velociraptor is just not happening anytime soon, people. And even if we could do this, we should probably stop to think whether we should do this.
Because they're cool. Like, imagine you see, like, Parasaurolophus going by and they do moving heads. That's cool. They could put them on, like, an island.
I know. And what happens to that creature after the shock and wonder and excitement of seeing a real-life dinosaur is gone? A dinosaur today would be wondrous, truly awesome, but so terribly sad, and lonely, and maybe just bound for extinction again. Maybe some things are just best kept alive in our imaginations.
To be sure, the technology being used to create dire wolf-like creatures and woolly mice is incredible and has enormous potential and power.
It's very powerful. It's already being used to preserve endangered species like the red wolf, and we cannot argue with conservation of existing species. But we should maybe take a humble pause to think through the potential consequences of even the best intended science.
And if you really cannot wait to see dinosaurs exactly where they lived and died, a real-life Jurassic Park where you don't have to risk your life and there's no gene editing required, and it's an amazing place that honestly changes. Maybe it will change you too.
Don't reach.
You so need to make a supercut of me just listing dinosaur names, Mom. That's after you finish this video. Just supercut of me listing dinosaur names. I'll get a few more for you.
Really? I was just hoping I'd have more to do. Thank you.